Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and we have talked a lot about the persecuted church throughout the world, how Christianity is under persecution in the United States, and then individuals who have really given their all for their faith. And today I am really honored to have with us Emily, is it Fuentes? Am I saying that right?
Emily Fuentes.
Fuentes, okay, nice to have you. She is the Public Relations and Communications Coordinator for Open Doors USA, and they track Christian persecution around the world and the persecuted church. So, Emily, thanks for being with us today. Can you give us a little bit of an overall state of the persecuted Christians around the world?
Well, thank you so much for having me. Open Doors just recently launched our World Watch List for the year 2014, and this is a ranking of the top 50 nations where Christians face the most persecution. For the 12th consecutive year in a row, North Korea ranks as the worst place to be a Christian. As you've seen many reports in the news, it's an awful place to be a human in general, but Christians face a whole extra level of persecution. It's the only place on earth where being a Christian can get you persecuted and executed right on the spot, or it means life imprisonment in one of their concentration camps, which is very similar to those of World War II Nazi Germany. Wow. Beyond that, though, it's not just your faith that you're concerned about when your Christian faith is found out. If your faith's discovered, up to 3 generations of your family can spend their lives in these awful concentration camp-like prisons. So that's you, your parents, your kids, your grandkids, all because of your faith. That adds a whole nother moral dilemma.
Wow. We heard some incredible stories recently out of North Korea, and maybe you can confirm those, where on one day in several stadiums across the country, people were executed, some for just having a Bible. Is that true?
In North Korea, it's oftentimes very difficult to confirm or deny cases like this just because it's such a closed country. But the reality is things like that happen all the time. So if it didn't happen in that instance, most likely that something very similar to it has happened in recent times. They keep the country very closed and only show the things that they want to see, like the positive things, or maybe traditions or propaganda type things. So the reality is that kind of stuff happens all the time.
What's happening now with Central African Republic?
Yeah, for the first time in the history of our list, the Central African Republic landed on our list, and in its first landing ranked as number 16, which is extremely high for being a country that's never been on there before. Within the past year, as we've heard in the news, there's been Muslim extremists coming in and attacking the Christian majority population. So the Central African Republic is almost similar to the U.S., where there's a large majority of Christians, and it's being overrun by a small minority of Islamic extremists. There's been horrific incidences of rape, killing, attacks, and thousands upon thousands of Christians are refugees now as a result.
Wow. I saw where 37 Muslim countries are persecuting Christians. Is that an accurate figure?
That's correct. The 37 of our 50 countries, Christians face persecution through Islamic extremism. So it's whether it could be the government that practices an extreme version of Islam through like Sharia law or elements like that, or it's oftentimes extremist groups like Somalia, which is Al-Shabaab, the terrorist group, or Nigeria with Boko Haram, which is their terrorist group. The other faction will also be society. So something like Pakistan, where the government has blasphemy laws, which come from the government, but it's usually more of kind of a witch hunt from members of society who are persecuting Christians in an extreme Islamic way.
What's happening in Egypt?
Egypt has been one of those countries where it might be stable for a little while, and then there'll be attacks against Christians. So you might recall last August, there was an extreme heightened version of persecution against Christians in Egypt, even in Cairo. Hundreds of Christian properties were destroyed, along with churches that were either lit on fire or burnt down, attacked. Christians died in these attacks. It was something that Egypt, which is beforehand was a relatively peaceful to acts of persecution, started facing violence kind of for the first time. Maybe there was hostility beforehand or other issues of persecution, but this was actual physical violence. And so it's something that's very much on the minds and hearts of the Christians there. However, what we've noted is that when persecution increases often in many of these lands, God's doing an amazing work in growing his church. And there's been a revival, really, especially among young people in Egypt. More and more people are coming to Christ. There's large youth conferences of people dedicating their life to Christ. So we're seeing how he's working in spite of this persecution.
Well, that's great news. Emily, can you tell us what is Open Doors' position on Israel and the Palestinians?
Open Doors, Brother Andrew, our founder, once said that anyone who's a Christian, I want to help. And so we know that there's Christians on both sides, so Palestinian territories and as well as Israel, and we're there to serve Christians of all backgrounds and supply them with whatever their needs might be.
So give us an update. What is Open Doors doing with this issue around the world, and how can we help you?
One of our main things is really just to get people praying. I've been to both Colombia and Nigeria myself, and in both of those cases, as well as my coworkers have traveled, the number one request we hear is that people would be praying for those who are persecuted. It's an amazing example of unifying the body of Christ that Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians. So we provide many prayer resources on our website, which is opendoorsusa.org. We have bulletin inserts, emails you can sign up for, just with the latest news and information and prayer requests. And we ask that not only you pray, but that you would share these resources with your pastors or your small group or things like that. One woman in particular, when I was in Nigeria, I told her I was going back to share her stories and prayer requests with others in the U.S. And she said, I had no idea Christians in the U.S. knew what was going on in Nigeria. She's like, I'm so encouraged to know that people I've never even met and people I didn't even know knew about the situation will be praying for me. Wow. All
right. And that website again, Emily?
That's opendoorsusa.org.
Opendoorsusa.org. Syria is now popping back up in the news. What's happening there?
Yeah, Syria has been an especially tough country to watch because our World Watch List 2 years ago in 2012 ranked Syria as number 36. There were some hostilities against Christians in a Muslim-dominated society. Then with the civil war breaking out, it jumped to spot number 11 in 2013. More violence, more attacks against Christians. But in 2014, it ranks as number 3. So within 2 years, it jumped from the 36th spot to the number 3 spot, which is a significant jump. And in Syria, sadly, it's been the country with the most martyrs this year. There's been at least 1,000 documented cases of people being martyred for their faith. We do very conservative estimates, things that have been documented in the news. We know the number is significantly higher than that, but that's the most conservative figure we can give. So Christians, whole Christian villages, for example, historically Christian villages are being attacked just because they know that they're a Christian village. Islamic extremists who are fighting in the civil war are coming in and either just bombing these towns, forcing people to flee. And even in some cases, there's been massacres of up to 45 people in one incident. So the violence has just significantly increased. However, just like Egypt, there's been some amazing examples of God working in spite of the persecution. A lot of churches are setting up an area to give socioeconomic relief, so they have food and clothing and all those who still remain in their town. And they've used it as witnessing opportunities. One pastor even shared how a man who looked like an Islamic extremist, who had the beard and everything, came in to get some food and clothes, and he was shouting some fanatical statements. Well, they kept an eye on him, but encouraged him to sit through the service. And afterwards, he actually gave his life to Christ. So God is doing amazing things in spite of the persecution.
Yeah, we're hearing some pretty remarkable stories coming out of some of these Islamic countries that are just flat out miraculous.
Yes, that's right. There's been cases in countries like Iran and others where it's very closed and it's hard for people who are Muslim to find out about the Christian faith. But we've heard amazing stories of people seeing a man in white in their dreams with holes in his hand, knowing that it's very much Jesus, and they knew that they had to go down to their church and ask more about this, even though it was a high risk for them, even though they weren't Christians yet. God speaking to them in dreams, and they're coming to know Him.
All right, again, OpenDoorsUSA.org. One more question: what's happening in China?
China's been a country where actually there's a little bit of good news. So Eastern Europe, for example, is where we started our ministry, and many of the countries in Eastern Europe, like Poland and whatnot, don't really face persecution anymore. It's spread to other countries. China, it's not that there is no longer persecution, but it's a lot less severe than it used to be, depending on the region. So for the most part, the country is experiencing a great deal less of persecution. But in certain regions like the Uyghur section, which is the northwest near the stands like Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, there's some persecution, as well as the Tibetan region too.
Wow. Well, Emily, thank you for what you and Brother Andrew, the whole team does. Thank you so very much. And let's stay in touch and keep us informed. And let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out these stories and support them if you're so led to do so. And that's OpenDoorsUSA.org. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, God bless. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
All right, we're back, and really kind of interested to find out more about the justice system in our country, what's going on. We are delighted to have back with us Craig Roche. He is president of the Justice Fellowship. He's also been pretty active politically, former Speaker of the House with the Michigan House of Representatives. He also was a co-chairman for former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney. So a pretty busy guy, but now he's working with Chuck Colson Task Force. And so, Craig, nice to have you with us, my friend.
It's great to be back on the show, and it's great to be working for what I consider to be a much higher calling than my previous levels of employment. But thank you for mentioning them. So
you're beyond a recovering politician.
I use that word a lot.
Well, tell us about the Chuck Colson Task Force first.
Well, the Chuck Colson Task Force, first for your viewers and your listeners, I'm sure they know the story, but just briefly, Chuck Colson was a special assistant to President Nixon. He went to prison in his role in a Watergate-related scandal, had his power and his pride stripped from him, but in the process, his Christian faith strengthened. And when he left prison, he promised those that he served with there that he wouldn't forget them, and he founded Prison Fellowship and Justice Fellowship, and to reform the system based on a philosophy of accountability, but not forgetting about redemption and restoration, reconciliation, the things that our communities need. And this is just a really important first step. This is the Congress in an overwhelming fashion endorsing the creation of the Charles Colson, imagine this, a task force named by Congress and expected to be signed by the president after a former federal prisoner who was redeemed in Christ and as well as reconciled in our country and restored when he returned home in 2012. And it's a wonderful step forward and a sign that the right and the left can come together and pursue important structural change that's in all of our best interests.
Well, some have said he was a modern-day Paul, you know. Let's talk about the federal correction system and the prison system, because the stories that surround those who find Christ are phenomenal. That is the ultimate reform. Without that, those numbers are not encouraging.
They're not encouraging. It's the federal prison system today is operating at about 140% of capacity. Mm-hmm. And what I would tell the listeners and the viewers that I have a question that I always ask. I was in sales and marketing before I was in politics. It's the so what question. If you're going to carry on a conversation with people, you should be able to answer, so what? Why does it matter to me that the federal prisons are operating above capacity? And I would answer that it makes us less safe, because what we want more than anything, where 95% of the people that are in prison return to our communities, is for them not to continue in a life of crime. And what we have done as a nation with the tough rhetoric and the cliche things like lock them up and throw away the key and 3 strikes and you're out, is we've forgotten that what we want from that person is to be held accountable. We want them to pay back what they owe society, but we want them to leave a life of crime. That's what reduces crime. That's what makes us safer, and that's what restores that person, their family, and their circle of influence, and prayerfully the generations that follow them. And so at the very beginning of the conversation, if you're over capacity, you're making us less safe because people are put in a situation that doesn't dissuade them from criminal activity. It encourages it.
What was Chuck Colson's vision for criminal justice system?
Well, the simple words, Chuck Colson wrote, first of all, 30 books, so I can't quantify his philosophy, and his ideas are very well founded in Scripture, in the history of this nation, but also in the history of the world, with methods of punishment, justice, and accountability. But for today's discussion, and to narrow it, I would say that it was really revolved around accountability and what the nation, the secular nation, would call redemption. As Christians, we believe that redemption is something that's given to us when we surrender our life and will to Christ. But it's accountability and restoration back into the community. And what Prison Fellowship has always done is to try to promote that on an individual level, one prisoner, one person in the criminal justice system at a time. And what Justice Fellowship does is we try to encourage policies in spending in the budgets at all levels of government that promote this philosophy that is found in Scripture, that the idea that when somebody does wrong, does harm to another, or harm to the community, that it begins with the accountability, and when that accountability is accepted, and that life changed from the inside out, that's what will bear fruit in the community. And we, of course, apply scriptural principles and teachings in our work, Prison Fellowship, but mirroring that in the secular world of government is important, because what we believe to be the truth, in fact, bears itself out in the metrics and the studies that are done in the criminal justice system, that when you go a different road than what I would say mirrors the scriptural instructions, it does not bear fruit. People do not change their lives. They are mired in failure in the criminal justice system. And when you do mirror the principles that we can point to and live out in our own lives, we find the most dramatic of life changes and circumstances changes, whether it be the person that has committed the crime, or whether it be the victim of the crime, or the community that is affected. So it's just a wonderful transformation that's taking place in our political leaders' hearts, where their eyes are open to this and they become willing to advance these principles and policy, and that's what we're seeing play out now.
Is the federal system becoming more open to what you do and more accessible?
Amazingly so, and I don't want to get the director of the Bureau of Prisons in trouble, but I have met with him a couple of times personally. He's a wonderful leader. His heart is in doing his job well, in the statutory instructions and that he receives from the courts. He's in a position where he doesn't get to choose who his clients are.
Right.
That's done for him by the congressmen that write the laws, the prosecutors that prosecute them, and the judges that pass the judgment. But his heart is really into the idea that doing it well, doing it better than we are now, when people are in the criminal justice system, is in our best interest. That is our priority, as well as just the safety of the prisoners and preventing them from escape.
Yeah.
What is the most simple way to describe a Bureau of Prisons, but it goes beyond that, and there's a higher calling to the community and the original intent of why we have a prison in the first place. So I would say yes, whether it be the administration, whether it be the leaders on the right or the left, they're all seeing that the experiment in punishing people into getting themselves in line did not make our community safer. It cost an extraordinary amount of money, as well as the human toll in our communities and our families, and that there's a better way to be pursued. And this Colson Commission, we pray, is the first step in that direction.
I only got a couple seconds left, but it appears that the numbers are certainly in your favor. We're not only seeing the stories from what you're doing there with the task force. We see the stories of Angola. I know that even down into the police systems, there are great reforms where chaplains are let in and programs are set up. It appears that in the end, the numbers favor what you're doing, and that out of that comes not only a regenerated life, heart, and soul, but true reform takes place, and that's got to be pretty exciting.
It's exciting, and we're not afraid. We believe the truth is the truth, and so we welcome the scrutiny and the metrics that are being applied to seeing if this works, and it is bearing itself out in the states, and we pray it will continue at the federal level as well.
It's a special calling. I know quite a few people that even in our area, they go into these maximum security prisons. It's a lot to get in there, but once they're in there, the stories are just phenomenal. Craig, thank you. How can people support what you do and get more information? What's your website?
It's Justice Fellowship, all one word, .org. We encourage you to come. You can click when it says join us. That's free. Join our growing network. It's up 20% this year of participants, and that will give you a chance to talk with federal and state leaders and to participate in this movement.
All right. Thanks, my friend. You're an inspiration. God bless you. Let's stay in touch, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. See you later. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
All right, we're back, and always a delight to have in the studio with us. Bryan Platt is the Executive Director for Jackson County Right to Life, very passionate, and he and I go to jail together. But we're here to talk about something, folks. I don't know how to say this enough. I realize Sunday is a busy day, but this coming Sunday, I'm asking you to really get out of your comfort zone, bundle up, and come to the Jackson County Justice Building there on the courthouse steps for the annual Stand for Life rally. It's going to be this Sunday starting at 1:30. And Bryan, I want to talk about that in our first segment because you got a great program. But why is this gathering important?
You know, Perry, it's important on a lot of different levels, but let me just take the most selfish one first, because it's encouraging. You know, our little group, our little merry bands, you know, Steve's band over in Josephine County and our little merry band in Jackson County, you know, you labor for 11 months and 3 weeks kind of in oblivion, you know, and I mean, and we're doing things, I mean, we're out at the picket and whatnot, but it's encouraging for us to put this little program together and then to have people come out and respond. I mean, this is a solidarity thing. You remember the old, you know, the olden days with Lech Walesa. You know, this is solid. It is an encouragement to the chapter to see people come out and say, "We're with you," because we don't know that. We don't get a lot of that during the course of the year when we're down there just trying to figure out how to balance the budget and get enough money together to put a booth at the county fair or whatever. So, strictly from a selfish standpoint, it's just a super encouragement and an energizer for our chapter to see people come out.
Now, why is this in January? Why on this date?
Well, okay, so it is. This is the 41st anniversary of the Roe v. Wade Bolton decisions of the Supreme Court. So, and we're at, you know, the numbers lose meaning after a while, but we're at 56 million babies being aborted, you know, under the authority, so to speak, of this Supreme Court decision. And so we take this as our kind of as our cornerstone with respect to our calendar year as far as right to life activities go, because it was a game changer. I mean, it was a game changer, and obviously it was a life ender for 56 million Americans. 1 in 6 Americans has died through abortion. We have untold millions of women and men whose lives have been changed forever for the worse because of decisions they've made. And yeah, it's time to recognize that and to remember that and to rally behind it.
Well, I have to tell you, folks, my opinion that of all the issues we battle in our country and in our state and our city and everything, this by far is the most important. If we get the life issue right, I believe everything else falls into place. But if we're just letting babies be killed and slaughtered without any kind of a defense for them, then I think their blood is on our hands. And we are making progress. I want to say this. There's been some good things happening with this movement, and who knows what the future holds. But we don't give up. Now, you got your rally 1:30 Sunday afternoon at the courthouse steps.
Well, yeah, the Jackson County Justice Building, the one that's got the fountain down there on the corner of 8th and at 8th and Oakdale there, and I think that's an appropriate place. Yeah, you know, we stand up there, and right behind us it says justice. Yeah, and you know, and that's what we're after, Perry. Yeah, is we're after justice for these unborn babies.
All right, I understand we have Steve on the line from Josephine County. Steve, you there?
I'm here, Perry.
How you doing,
Steve? Morning, Brian.
Good morning. Tell us about what you're doing over in Joe County.
Well, Josephine County, Grants Pass, we're having our annual March for Life on Sunday. And I should know the numbers, but we've been doing this event, the March for Life, for years and years and years now. And we always have rain or shine, snow or sleet, have an excellent turnout. Usually you get between 500 to 600 people that come out. And we gather at the courthouse starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Josephine County Courthouse on 6th Street. And with ODOT's blessing, we have 2 out of the 3 lanes of the main street, 6th Street, and march from the courthouse down to Riverside Park, where we gather for our rally. It starts at approximately 2 o'clock.
All right, so that's all coming up Sunday at 1 o'clock there in front of your courthouse, and then you go down the street, over the bridge, and into the park, right?
That's correct, yes.
What do you got on the program? Who's speaking this year for you?
Well, we've got a tentative program here, and it is subject to some changes, and I'm not entirely in control, but we do have several government representatives that will be in attendance. Dennis Richardson is having a statement read on his behalf since he can't make it. Dwayne Stark, who's running for his position, will be there. Wally Hicks, Herman Bartschiger will be there, possibly other local reps. Art Robinson is scheduled to speak as well.
Okay.
And at least those people will be there.
Okay, sounds good. And Brian, what do you got lined up for yours?
You know what we have, Perry, is we have the Dove's own Paulina Lizer speaking. And I asked Paulina because you know, I'm expecting, and I don't know, but I'm expecting her to bring a little bit of a cultural twist to the pro-life issue. I mean, we know that she's, you know, 100% pro-life all the way, but I'm interested in hearing not just from a woman's perspective, but from a woman who has been from a country where, for a period of time at least, abortion was rampant. Yeah. And of course now Russia has kind of turned that around, and they're rewarding their citizens to bear children. Right. You know, they've kind of, the light's kind of gone on now. It may not be for the right, for moral reasons, but for political reasons, they're encouraging their families to bear children. So,
well, here she is, a strong Christian, raised in a country where abortion was just as normal as can be, and even as a Christian, she accepted it as normal. You know, it was just, it's a kind of a weird twist until the light turned on. Yeah. And then when the light turned on, I think you'll find it to be a fascinating story.
And then we have Maureen Wright, wife of Pastor Jim Wright from Mountain Fellowship. And Maureen has a powerful testimony about forming the Pregnancy Resource Center. And you talk about faith and tenacity, okay? And we heard her at the PRC fundraising event, and I was just amazed. I had not heard this story at all. As far back as we go in our relationship, right to life with the PRC, I had no idea of this. So it's very moving, it's touching, and it's motivational. So really looking forward to that. And then, of course, yours truly.
Yeah, I'll be there as well. Well, folks, I just want you to understand how important these two events are. Steve, yours starts at 1 o'clock at the courthouse steps, and then the rally's at 2 down at the Riverside Park, right?
That's correct. And I didn't really get to mention, not only will we have government representatives there, but each and every year we do get a chance to share updates, news on what is going on locally, Oregon Right to Life, National Right to Life news. We always promote the contests that are coming up for students for oratory and for drawing and essay contests. We always highlight what's going on with our local pregnancy care centers, any news on what Planned Parenthood is or may be doing in our communities and in our nation that's counter to the cause for life.
Okay.
And this year, of course, as we'll be talking about, is the Right to Life petition. Yeah.
Okay, and then 1:30 at the Justice Building steps here in Medford. And I just want to say, I'm excited to know that there in Grants Pass for years, they've had quite a few hundred people show up, 500-600 people. Yeah. I'd like to see at least that many in Medford. Now, I realize there's some big games on television, but nothing's more important than this. So I'm asking you, and I'm asking you pastors that are listening, both in Jackson County and Josephine County, encourage your people to go to one of these two rallies over the weekend. I want to challenge you to say it from the pulpit Sunday, that to leave church, go have a quick hamburger or whatever, and then go to one of these two rallies and support what's going on. And let's show a tremendous solidarity for the life of the unborn. And again, in Joe County, it starts at 1 o'clock there at the courthouse steps, and 1:30 here in Medford. Steve, thanks for being with us today, my friend.
Thank you, Perry.
All right, God bless. And before we switch gears here, we're gaining on this in some areas.
You know, we're gaining in a lot of ways. It's the doom and gloom is the easy part, you know, to pick up on. But no, we're gaining in a lot of ways. 10 states have passed pain-capable laws which prevent abortions to occur after approximately 20 weeks. None have been overturned by the United States Supreme Court. And of course, you know, we've got a little bit of a setback there with the
Arizona and Oklahoma.
Yeah, with the overturning, you know, there. But we have Planned Parenthood, you know, with their tail between their legs, closing down clinics left and right because there's no longer any support for them. So yeah, so there are a lot of things going on. And in the next segment, we'll talk about this petition, a fantastic opportunity for Oregonians to have their voices heard as well.
All right, stick around. We got more about this petition. Before we go to break, think about this. In the state of Oregon, every day, you are paying for 11 abortions. Think about that. Every day in the state of Oregon, you are paying for 11 abortions. How does that make you feel? We'll talk about that when we come back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and Bryan Platt's with us today. Bryan heads up Jackson County Right to Life, and this coming weekend is a very significant weekend in this whole effort to save the life of the unborn. It is the annual Stand for Life rallies both in Jackson County and Josephine County, and probably throughout the state and throughout the nation, because this commemorates the Roe versus Wade decision, 41 years ago. And so, folks, I'm really asking you to prayerfully consider being at one of these rallies this weekend. It's only an hour, and you can get back to the games later, but I got to tell you, I just really pray that you will feel the tug of the Lord to get out and come out and support the efforts of those who work day in and day out to do what they can to stop and curtail abortion in this state. So part of that is as we are going to the break, I asked you the question, do you know that you are paying for 11 abortions a day in the state of Oregon? You say, well, I'm not paying anything. Oh, yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
And what's happening?
And let's make a distinction, which I think even drives the nail home further, and that is, these are not medically necessary abortions necessarily. Right. These are, and we know from the statistics, these are elective abortions. These are abortions that women choose on the throne, on the altar of convenience. So let's not make any distinctions
now, how
there.
Am I paying for
this? We're paying for it. Yes, there may be a medically necessary one. One out of what? 100 or 200 or 300. I mean, that's what the statistics would indicate. These are elective abortions that we're paying for.
All right, so that's my tax dollars.
That's your Oregon tax dollars through the Oregon Health Plan.
Okay, and so what we're trying to do now, there's a petition out to stop your tax dollars for paying these abortions, and introduce Jeff.
Well, okay, first of all, just to backtrack 2 years, Jeff Jimerson and a group up in Salem, Corvallis area, were moved by the Spirit, really, because of this. It's so obviously a moral wrong that they decided to begin this petition process even 2 years ago for the 2012 general election cycle. And the thing is, the goal was a constitutional amendment, with the thinking then the legislature can't just simply go in and wipe it clean, because frankly, Oregon's legislature generally is hostile to the pro-life movement. And of course, that raises the bar in the initiative petition process with respect to the number of signatures that need to be gathered. So they burdened themselves in this process by thousands, tens of thousands of additional signatures needed. So we have about 115,000 a valid signature requirement to get this on this coming November's general election ballot, and it bans the use of taxpayer money to fund abortions in Oregon. And Jeff can be more specific on it.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Perry. Hi, Brian.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Thanks for being with us. Fill in the blanks there about this petition drive.
Fill in the blanks. Yeah. We're working hard. We're sort of just rounded the corner, what I kind of envision as the last phase of signature gathering, starting now in 2014 and up through Mother's Day. So May 11th is our due date that we need volunteers to send in signatures by. But fill in the blanks, we have 4+ months. We've got 32,000 signatures in our hands right now. And as Brian mentioned, we need 116,000. So we're just relying on folks all over the state to get involved, to get their churches involved, and gather a few signatures and send them back to us, and that'll add up to what we need.
All right, a couple things here. This is totally legal to take place in the foyer of a church. Is that correct?
Absolutely. All right. Just to clarify, some of the confusion comes from the IRS requirements that a pastor or a church cannot endorse a political candidate or a political party. We're neither of those.
Right.
This is a moral issue, and a pastor should and we hope will.
Yeah, we know that. Okay, so initiatives can be taken place. Now, they can go online and sign the petition. Is that correct?
Well, you can't sign it online, but you can print a petition, and there's only one way to sign a legal petition,
right,
and that's by by actually putting ink on paper. And so, yeah, go to our website, print what we call a single signature petition, and you and your whole family can print one each, and everyone who's a registered Oregon voter, and then mail them back to us in one envelope.
Okay, and that website is?
It's Oregon2014.org.
Oregon2014.org. Okay. Well, I just want to say, first of all, are you a registered voter? And if you are you currently registered? That's number one. So if you have changed your name, you have moved, you got to re-register. And I would admonish you to do that today. Today. And make sure that you are properly registered. And then find one of these petitions. We have them here at the Dove. We'll have them at the rally, and we'll talk more about that. So this is a big thing, Bryan.
Well, and Jeff, we did this in 2012. Mm-hmm. We gathered 70,000 signatures statewide, so roughly half of what was necessary to turn into the Secretary of State's office for validation. If every one of those people who signed would find one person who hadn't signed, we'd be there. I mean, it's as simple as that. And not only that, and we've talked about this before, is those signatures are sitting in the pews of our churches.
Yeah. Those
signatures are sitting in the pews of our churches. The church is the solution to getting these signatures.
Yeah, and I really want to admonish pastors, it's your tax dollars too that are paying for these abortions. And this is totally legal. I don't think this is a political issue. This is a life issue. This is a spiritual issue. This is very much a godly issue. And I would encourage you, either you take it on yourself in your church or appoint somebody in your church to be a point person to gather signatures in your church, and let that take place every Sunday in the foyer, and then get those signatures in by Mother's Day, and we can give you the details on that.
Well, yeah, Jeff, now I need to interject here, because Jeff is actually coming down to Medford Monday night. This coming Monday night, the 20th. So we're meeting at First Baptist Church in the fireside room, the same room that we met in previously. It's in the middle of the physical church area there, between the Grace Christian Administration and the sanctuary, at 7 p.m. Jeff will come down. A lot of people, I think, are intimidated about circulating petitions because they're fearful of doing something wrong and essentially wasting their time. And Jeff is going to come down. The guy is the answer man when it comes to the do's and don'ts of signature gathering. And so we would hope to have people come to this meeting at 7 o'clock. Might last an hour, might last an hour and a half. But Jeff will be there to demonstrate all the procedures with respect to gathering petitions. My goal is to solidify our Jackson County organization with respect to the gathering the signatures. We don't want to replicate efforts. It's difficult enough, to get people out there without finding out that we're treading over old ground. We have some larger churches that we have not gathered signatures at, that we need to have a group of individuals help us in that process. So this coming Monday at 7 at First Baptist Church in Medford, Jeff will be down.
Thanks, Jeff. God bless you, pal. We'll see you Monday night, huh?
Thank you both. Yeah, God bless you.
Thanks, Jeff. See you Monday.
All right, you got some quotes you want to get shared.
Well, I do, and this is kind of back to the Roe Wade thing, which is, all this is around. And actually, this article, I just kind of sat there and I was stunned, because this constitutional lawyer did such a good job of summarizing the very many different components, the constitutional issue, but he really challenged me as a pro-lifer with his last statement. So it's just a short paragraph, if I may. And he says, faced with this prospect, and the prospect is, the issue of, basically, supporting, or the Constitution somehow supporting the notion that we can abort babies through this privacy concept. Many of us, maybe even most of us, flee from the facts. We deny that the living human embryo is truly or fully human life. We adopt a view that whether the embryo or fetus is human depends or can be judged in degrees on a sliding scale over the course of pregnancy, the trimester concept. Or we proclaim uncertainty about the facts of human biology. When does life really begin? I mean, this guy he's getting it all. Or we proclaim moral agnosticism about the propriety of imposing our views on others. Well, it's wrong for me, but it's your business. You can make that decision. Or we throw up our hands and give up because moral opposition to an entrenched, pervasive social practice is not worth the effort, discomfort, and social cost. The one position not on the table, The one possibility too hard to look at is that abortion is a grave moral wrong on a par with the greatest human moral atrocities of all time, and that we passively, almost willingly, accept it as such. We sit on our hands.
Wow.
We know it's there, and we sit on our hands.
Yeah, I again just say that, look, what these rallies are about, and I think you properly stated it, Bryan, it's a time of solidarity. Bryan and his group and those who continually work on this thing day in and day out need the encouragement. But more importantly, when I come to these rallies, I see people and I go, man, I'm glad to see you there. I am glad to see you that you get the issue. You understand it, you're there. And I really hope you will just come on out, bundle up, come on out. Yeah, it may be a little cold, but it won't be raining, and it'll be great. You got another one there.
Well, there are, and I hate to bore people with just, you know, it's like being on the radio here, but there is one other one, and I think that a lot of people, if I say to people, what significance does Roe v. Wade have, and I'm not talking about the result, the abortion thing, but what does it have from a respect of the legal concepts? And if you remember, first of all, there were 9 men on the Supreme Court that made this decision. It wasn't a unanimous decision. There was a 7-2. There was a dissension there. And Harry Blackman, who wrote this, and I've actually read a book about this. His daughter wrote a book about it. He actually was influenced by his clerks. His clerks actually steered him towards his decision to claim this right of privacy. Anyhow, and I don't claim to be a constitutional lawyer, but this is just a very short paragraph. It says, Roe's reasoning, distilled to its essentials, is that the Constitution creates a privacy right to abortion on the premise that the right not to bear a child is protected by the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause. Okay, so the Due Process Clause, basically, we're all protected by. It says you can't be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. They can't just come in and say, boom, you're going to jail, or boom, I'm taking your car, or whatever it is. Okay, no serious constitutional law scholar thinks that this is a plausible reading of the Due Process Clause. Wow. That clause forbids government to deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. Without due process of law are crucial words. The Due Process Clause does not say the government may never deprive a person of life, liberty, or property. It says that the government may not do so without due process, that is, arbitrarily, lawlessly, or not in conformity with duly enacted laws. That decision, Roe v. It was actually Doe Bolton, almost turned the Due Process Clause upside down.
Yeah.
It was upside down.
Yeah.
And, you have a lot of attorneys, the one at Harvard, which, not Dean Kagan, but I can't think of his name now, who's known as a very liberal attorney, but very brilliant mind, disagrees with the Roe v. Wade decision, with the Doe Bolton decision, because of this issue. So the other
part of that argument quickly is that the one that should have due process of law isn't born yet.
And it's being completely deprived.
And have no representation.
Perry, if we as Christians agree that the unborn are human, there is absolutely no excuse for us not to be involved in this process. And I think we even have trouble sometimes conceptualizing it. It's a big spot in mom's belly. That's what it is. Yeah. It's not a human being. Yeah. Created in God's image.
Well, folks, look, this coming weekend is very, very important. And I want to admonish you, and especially you pastors, please say something from your pulpits, please. Not only on the rally, but also on the petition drive. But the rally in Medford is at 1:30 at the Justice Building steps. We'll see you there. The rally in Josephine County starts at the courthouse steps at 1 o'clock. You can be there. And the rally, about an hour long or so. Please come on out. Be a part of this. Show your support for the life of the unborn and those who work in this area, and then we'll give you a lot of information about the petition. Pastors, assign somebody in your church to stand in your foyer and get these petitions signed, okay? Thanks, Bryan.
Thank you, Perry.
All right, God bless you, pal. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.